Critical staff members at the Animal Foundation are quitting in frustration. Pet owners say any attempt at retrieving a lost pet is frustrating and sometimes even heartbreaking.
The 13 Chief Investigator Darcy Spears now has spent months investigating the shelter crisis and now has an exclusive look at what the future might hold.
An unprecedented number of employees at the Animal Foundation have reached out to 13 Investigates to outline their long list of complaints. Keep in mind, this is the place your pets will most likely end up if they get lost. Insiders say a shelter claiming it's committed to protecting your pets has instead put many animals in danger. Staff members reached out to their higher-ups to urge improvements.
So the staff we're having to cut corners.
But be careful what you wish for. Former animal care supervisor Vanessa Yoakum says some fixes have caused more problems.
It's heartbreaking.
One example, when the enrichment team was reassigned to help feed and clean.
Which means playgroup stopped, which means the socialization stopped. And there has been so many, I can say at least 5 dogs, I can say in the last 2-3 months that had to have getting put down because we weren't able, no one was able to socialize with them.
Licensed vet tech Liz Wade believes in a shelter, animal care and welfare is everyone's responsibility at all times.
The satisfaction you get from helping the homeless animals that don't have anybody, it's a feeling that you can't describe. And then you go from this overwhelming feeling of, wow, I'm doing so much good for the community, to, am I helping these animals or am I hurting them because of the conditions of the shelter? And by the time I left, I was 100% convinced we were just hurting these animals and we were not helping them at all.
Last year, the Animal Foundation heavily promoted achieving its Mission Possible 2020, saving the life of every healthy and treatable animal.
It is a myth because that's their way of using the wording to their benefit so that they can have that status.
Former feline programs assistant Nicole Staples.
They want to have this perception that they're doing this great thing.
Former relief vet Dr. Mindy Roberts says animals who came in healthy and treatable became unhealthy and untreatable.
With the dogs, I think it's just more the overcrowding. A lot of them are getting behavioral issues because they stay in the kennels too long.
Euthanizing animals for medical or behavioral reasons enabled the Animal Foundation to meet its goal.
We have available cats that are sitting, available dogs. It's just they're not being transferred over when their time is up, and it's a lack of space.
The final straw for Dr. Roberts came with one realization.
Spaying and neutering is not getting done for all the adoptions that are going out.
Government contracts say the shelter must spay or neuter every cat or dog they transfer or adopt unless health conditions preclude. The insiders we spoke to say it's past time for local leaders in the shelter to reevaluate their agreements.
Is having the contracts with the city and the county and North Las Vegas, is that no longer a viable or sustainable business model?
No, it's not viable, not for the Animal Foundation at this time, because they're in over their heads with the amount of animals they're taking in.
When you're large, the fluctuations of a normal shelter quickly get magnified.
Dr. Kate Hurley at the Correct Shelter Medicine Program at the University of California, Davis inspected the Animal Foundation in 2007, the first time the shelter was in crisis. She's putting together an online boot camp to help the Animal Foundation and other large shelters across the U.S.
It's about getting really tight on priorities and making sure that the work undertaken by the shelter is aligned with what they can actually handle.
That could mean scaling back.
It's time to renegotiate that contract, even if it means you'll compensate us less this year because we are able to do less.
And getting back to focusing on the key clients, the animals, if it's not too late.
In the beginning of this crisis, I think that it was still maybe salvageable, but at this point, I do think that the Animal Foundation should be shut down.
The private nonprofit Animal Foundation receives about $4.8 million tax dollars a year. Our government contracts require them to provide humane and reasonably appropriate care and shelter. As our investigation unfolded, City Councilwoman Victoria Seaman met with the city manager and staff to demand a full investigation and audit. We'll speak with her and other local leaders as my series continues in the coming weeks. Darcy Spears, 13 Investigates.